Well, in the last few years, what we've seen is a realization, I think, that the simple concepts that one came from with biotech of being able to identify a single patentable agent which is going to solve the problems of any one particular issue is not actually the way things are going. What we're seeing is that there is a need to attack things from many different levels at the same time, using multiple approaches, multiple organisms, multiple processes to actually solve a whole range of issues which come up in the world of industrial biotechnology. Biotechnology, after all, is only being turned to the uses of industry because industry has run into problems in terms of supply of its feedstocks, notably the oil issues. The increasing price of oil over the last 5, 6, 7 years has meant that the cost of feedstocks has gone up for the chemicals industry. What that means is because there is so narrow margins within the chemicals industry, that there's very little room for manoeuvre. When you at the same time, you actually constrain the sources of capital for the industry, you've got double trouble. And essentially, you've got to find some way out. The only way we can do that is to go to alternative resources, notably biomass as a source of feedstock for the chemicals industry and for the transport industry and every other industry, because chemistry feeds the whole of our society. At which point we need to therefore move through our knowledge of, or increasing knowledge of genomics, genetics and the processes that go on within that. How do we actually now liberate from the biomass which is all the way around us a different source of energy, a different source of hydrocarbons as the basis of our whole society, and convert those into the things which we know and love: textiles, paints, adhesives, all of the other things which we take for granted, the invisible things in our world that hold it together, need to be sourced from a different place. The main stumbling block is the invisibility of what we're doing. Literally, because it's the glue that holds everything together, you don't actually see it within the context. So we're developing products which the general public, and the media and everyone else actually fail to recognize as being there, albeit they're actually holding it together. So the identity of industrial biotechnology, which we've tried to invent over the last few years, is actually something which is not in the public consciousness. If you solve a problem in an invisible way, nobody notices. So we have a problem in terms of the public consciousness, and with that public consciousness comes the awareness of private investors, because that is where the major gap in this particular enterprise is appearing. The costs of scaling up the processes which are being developed in multitudes at the moment, the costs of scaling up are not able to be borne by the industry as it stands at the moment. The chemicals industry has not got the kind of financial resources that are required to do this. We need not the public purse, which is paying for the research, but the private resources to come in and bring investment into the scale-up of these processes in order to make our invisible processes rework our whole world. A good part of the senior management of the major chemical companies really haven't engaged with this yet themselves, in that they're chemists. They're not particularly happy with the idea of these gloopy little microbes which will be able to create, as if by magic, exactly what they need. So they're not prepared to write off the equipment which they've got at the moment, the installed base which they've got, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars worth. So they're looking to the feedstocks to produce what they use at the moment, which is ethanols and acetones and simple chemicals. We, on the other hand, are able to produce complex molecules, things they're not able to deal with. They haven't got within their current processes a means to engage with. We could even envisage the idea that industrial biotechnology could bypass a good part of what the chemicals industry produces at the moment, because instead of breaking things down to their component parts and rebuilding them, why not make them directly? And that is actually a very challenging statement to an industry which is having to fight for its life. Essentially, we've got two major bottlenecks, one of which is the availability of biomass at a scale which can be sustained and renewed and be done in a responsible fashion. I mean responsible in a societal fashion, not just the agriculture, not just the water, but all of the things, all of those things which press down on us. The sun provides the energy. The energy can be converted by very conveniently placed plants in our arena, but we have to be able to harness that and feed ourselves at the same time. This is an old argument. From the point of view of being able to do that, we have to show investors that there's a return in doing this. At the moment, because it's based in research, we haven't got any poster children, if you like, to say, this was a great success, this made a huge amount of money. Not only we have the poster children, but they're invisible. And this is the conundrum. You can't see it, but you need it to be done. The private investors can't see it because it's invisible to them. So we have a catch-22 set up where the investors can't identify what the investment and exit route would be for them. And at the same time, we have a limitation in terms of the raw materials that we need. Those are the two major concerns which we have to face in order to be able to provide for a conversion to the bio-based economy.